Hey, welcome back to the Michael Lofton Show on Reason and Theology. A lot going on today, especially with the drones. We're going to cover it here on the Michael Lofton Show. We're going to talk about Trump's statement that he just gave on the drones, and it's going to tell us what he possibly knows about them as well as what the government knows. We're going to look at that. We're going to see an Air Force base just recently shut down because of the drones. We're also seeing other things circulating right now in the news. There's former intelligence officers who have come before Congress saying that the U.S. is in possession of UAP or UFO technology. All sorts of stuff going on. We're going to look at all of that today. But before we dive in, let me remind you to go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button if you aren't already subscribed. And if you haven't already hit the like button, do it now. I would greatly appreciate your support. So let's go ahead and shift over here to what Trump has just said on the drones. He was being grilled by a number of reporters at Mar-a-Lago, and they asked him all kinds of questions. Finally, somebody had some sense to ask him about the most pressing question today, and that is what is going on with these mystery Jersey drones. So let's see what he says. I've pointed out he's been conspicuously silent about this, as has Elon Musk. He has made just one small statement before, basically saying we need to shoot these things down. But now we're going to get just a little bit more. So here is what Trump says. Let's watch it together.
Thank
you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey and ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, I mean, they happen to be over Bedminster.
Will you
Want to know
shoot them down?
they're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
Have you been?
Do you have any reason to think they're a threat?
Two quick questions.
All right. Now, before we watch it again, let me just point out, why is it that Trump is the one giving a statement on these things and not Biden? Where is Biden? MIA. What kind of fake president is this man? If he were a leader, he would come before the entire nation and say, here is what is going on. He would be a leader, but he's not. And so Trump steps in, even though he is not president yet. He steps in and, as a leader, gives a really common sense statement. And there's a couple things that I think we can glean from it. I know it's short, but hey, look, it's better than what Biden's given us. It's better than what the Pentagon has given us. It's better than, what the White House representatives and this and that. It's better than what they've said. So listen to what he says here. I'm going to play it again because we got a lot of people just now tuning in. Watch what he says.
Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey and ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening.
Okay, he says that very confidently. The government knows what is happening. And look, that's such a common sense statement at this point, right? We already knew that the government knows it. It's amazing that the government thinks that we're stupid enough to believe that they don't know what's going on. As they have tried to tell us before, they don't really have the answers. They don't know. We know that they know. We know that they know. The question has been and still remains, why aren't they telling us, though? What is going on? Why are they hiding this information? What's going on there?
Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went.
Agreed. The military, the government has the technology to know everything about what is taking place in the skies right now. So again, very straightforward, very common sense, right?
And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows.
Ooh. Wow, he just threw Biden under the bus. He says that Biden knows, the military knows, and they would be better off just telling us what it is at this point.
And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it.
I love that little jab. Even if they were late, they would blast it out. All right. And look, this is something that we've already known as well. Look, if this was some kind of threat from Iran, why didn't they already take this out weeks ago? They would have already done that. So, the Iranian mothership thesis that we heard from the senator not long ago, seemed a little suspicious. Now the Pentagon denied it, so then it makes you wonder. Well, I wonder if there's some truth to it if the Pentagon denied it. But clearly, look, if this were a real threat, as far as a military threat from a foreign entity, the government would have already handled it. The military would have already handled it. Now, he says, I don't think that it is a threat from another government, indicating that Trump himself is not entirely sure what it is. Listen to what he said.
They want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because
I can't imagine it's the enemy. Listen to the words that he chose to use there. He didn't say it isn't the enemy. If he had direct knowledge of what this is, if he has been briefed, I don't think he would use words like that. I think he would have more of an assertion here. It is not, a foreign entity or something like that. He says, I can't imagine that it's.
military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it.
That does concern me a little bit, because it suggests that he doesn't know for sure what it is. That bothers me, because he is about to be sworn in as president, and I would have hoped he would have already been briefed on this issue. And he's also very, very, as you already know, well connected. So you would think that he would know with confidence what it is. To use that kind of language does trouble me a little bit. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe he's deliberately downplaying his statement here so that he doesn't give people the impression that he has been briefed. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe that choice of language is deliberate, but it does bother me.
Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, they happen to be over Bedminster.
Will you
Wanna
shoot
know
them
the
down?
truth.
Received
They're very,
intelligent briefing.
they're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster.
Have you been-
I've
have you
decided
received
to
briefing on
cancel
the-
my
have you
trip.
received- Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
Have you been
Do you have
getting
any- do you have any
regular
reason to think
intelligence
they're a
briefings?
threat?
Two-
Somebody asked, do you have any reason to believe that they're a threat? I think if he did know that they were a threat, he would have interjected and said something at that point. But again, speculation on my part. What's weird, though, is that's where it ended, and then they moved on to something else. What are they thinking? Are they serious? Then the reporters ask questions about something else. Are they serious? This entire interview with Trump should have just been about the drones. You shouldn't be moving on to anything else. This is front and center. We can talk about this other stuff later. Let's talk about the drones. Ask Trump everything and anything. Let's get some answers. And I think that we can get some answers, maybe not all, but some from Trump. If he doesn't know the answer, that's going to tell us something. If he does know the answer, that's going to tell us something. No matter what, they should have pressed him more. I don't know what's going on with him. And it was funny because when somebody asked about the drones, can you comment on the drones? I heard one of those reporters snicker and laugh like, "Psh, here we go with that." Now I'm wondering, are these journalists and reporters, do they think that this is just some silly story? Are they not taking this seriously? They need to, because this is a serious issue. I'll play it one more time just for the sake of those who are just now coming in and haven't seen it. It's short, it's 1 minute long. Let's take a look one more time.
Third home of the drones.
Mr. President.
Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey ports?
Did you hear them snicker? And you see a few of them are smiling and laughing like, yeah, this is just kind of a funny thing. It's a laughing matter. Really? So they're not taking it seriously.
It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people. And they should, because the people are really, I mean, they happen to be over Bedminster.
Will you
Want to
shoot
know
them
the
down?
truth.
Received
They're very-
intelligence briefing.
They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster.
Have you
I've-
been-
I've
have you
decided
received
to
briefing on
cancel
that?
my
Have you
trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
And somebody in the chat just said that it sounds like Trump was snickering too, which might explain why we haven't really heard him say a whole lot about this. Maybe he's also not taking it very seriously. Maybe because he knows something, or maybe he doesn't know enough. I don't know. But listen to what he said here.
Third home of the drones.
Mr. President.
Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New
Okay, yeah, he does kind of snicker there. But here's the weird thing. Elsewhere, he's taking it really seriously. He's saying, look, this is a real serious issue, and we need to shoot these things down. So I don't know. I'm kind of getting a mixed vibe here from Trump. Is he taking it seriously? Is this a threat that needs to be shot down? Or is he just laughing at this point because he knows more information? I don't know. It's a little hard to read him. But this is better than nothing. And it's better than what Biden has given us. Because what Biden has given us so far is nothing. No answers. Where's Biden? It's like we're all looking for him like he's where's Waldo at this point. What in the world is going on? Where's Biden? We need to create a Where's Waldo version of Biden now and have it and send it out to kids in school like a children's book or something. And they search for Biden at this point. It's a joke. What's going on with him? He's supposed to be a leader, supposed to be a president. Well, okay. So there's that information. That's just breaking news. So I had to sneak that in here. But there's some other stuff going on as well that is now coming out. Here is an actual audio recording of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base having to shut down for a period of time because of, you guessed it, the drones. So this is interfering in military affairs, restricted airspace. We've seen that before multiple times. Now it's happening again. And the military is having to shut down Air Force bases. Listen to this audio.
Patterson Tower, Med Flight 8, 1,900 feet, about 7 miles southwest of the field, like transition your Delta northeastbound.
Med Flight 8 Patterson Tower, use extreme caution for heavy UAS movement on the base. Security forces is handling the situation. Suggest at or above 1,700 AGL.
That we will maintain 2,000 and on our transition for Med Flight 8.
And I gotta keep the lights down so that security forces can see.
Roger that, no problem.
Position approved, sir.
Approved, Med Flight 8.
Med Flight 8 Tower.
Ahead for Med Flight 8.
Hey, sir, you're still approved through our Class Delta After you leave, Columbus is going to sterilize the Class Delta as of 0330 Zulu. Patterson Class Delta is closed after your transition.
I'm sorry about that. You got stepped on by other traffic. Can you say again?
Yes, sir. Your transition is still approved. However, Patterson Class Delta is sterilized as of 0330 Zulu for heavy unknown UAS activity. Security Forces is handling it, and Columbus is going to sterilize the airspace after you leave the Delta.
UAS is an acronym for Unmanned Aircraft Systems.
Roger that. No problem. Thank you.
All aircraft use extreme caution. Patterson Class Delta is now closed for heavy UAS activity.
Closed for heavy UAS activity, unmanned aircraft systems. What is that? Well, that's what people have been calling drones lately, but it could be something else. And we have Quentin in the chat asking a good question. Why are they calling drones if we haven't seen one up close? Good question. I'm using that term right now because that's how it's being used in the news in most circles. But in reality, we don't know for sure if these are drones. And it could be that some are drones and some is, something else. It could be a mixture of things. That is actually going to be something we're going to touch on here in a moment, because we're going to have a senator himself who admits, look, this is, unidentified aerial phenomenon, right? A UAP or a UFO. So yes, very technically, we don't actually know if they are drones. I do want to point that out. Okay, watch this one, because this is going to show us that other places are also being forced to shut down. Naval facilities. Watch this one.
Federal lawmakers have growing concerns about the mysterious aircraft popping up along the East Coast. Today, the military confirmed some of the unidentified craft have been flying over a naval weapons station in New Jersey. Fox
Naval weapons station.
13's political editor Craig Patrick is now tracking this investigation and the fallout in Washington. Craig?
Yeah, it's really baffling at this point. The Biden administration says these are not U.S. military aircraft or drones, and that there's no evidence, they say, that this is a threat to national security. But see, members of Congress are saying there's also no evidence that they are not such a threat, and the sightings are piling up, first and mainly along the middle Atlantic coast, yes, but also all the way to Southern California.
We saw two that came directly overhead our backyard in South Temecula here, and then we've seen a bunch across the horizon.
I looked up because it was coming now right over top of me, and it was quiet. It didn't make any noise.
As we speak, the FBI says that it's trying to figure out what these things are, so we don't know exactly what we're dealing with. The sightings started in New Jersey and then New York, spread again across the middle Atlantic states along the coast, then the Pacific coast. And if they are drones, then they are certainly flying at times and in places they should not.
This is a violation of FAA regulations, that's why I believe it's either our government or a foreign nexus that's operating these drones. And if it's not, then we really need the FAA and Department of Homeland Security to step up here, because there's a clear violation.
But not necessarily, according to the Biden administration, because the White House said that they appear to be small manned or crewed aircraft, not unmanned drones that would not have to adhere to the same set of FAA rules. There's also a number of claims, rumors that have taken off in social media and in the halls of power in Washington that this may be or is the work, as you just heard, of a foreign nation likely spying on us or doing who knows what, and members of Congress from both parties say the White House is not giving them enough information, that it either doesn't know what's going on, doesn't want to admit it, or knows what's going on, and for whatever reason does not want to admit it.
I've been a little frustrated. There hasn't been enough transparency.
All right. So I also see a couple people in the chat. One is saying it's Project Bluebeam. Another is saying it's Satan. So in other words, demons. Hey, I just tackled those theories and a few others in yesterday's stream. So if you want to know more about that, is this Project Bluebeam and what that is this, demons? Is it aliens? Is it something else? go and watch my stream from yesterday. You're going to get a thorough explanation there. All right, now we do have an update because we saw this before from Jon Ferguson, where he was telling us that, well, he believes this is a case where drones are sniffing for nukes. We saw this break the news yesterday on Twitter. Joe Rogan was sharing his video. A lot of people were disseminating that video. Well, here's part two. He just released part two, giving us some additional information. Let's consider it. It's another alternative theory. Let's see what he has to say.
Okay, so I'm picking up on the second video here. The FAA requires all unmanned aircraft to fly that are flying at night to have nav lights. These nav lights are standard nav lights like you would see on any other aircraft, right? It tells you if you can't see the orientation of the aircraft, then you can see the nav lights and you can determine your orientation of the aircraft by watching these nav lights. But again, the fact that these unmanned systems are using nav lights means that they're complying with FAA regulations, right? So I'll show you what these nav lights look like. But again, they're complying with FAA regulations. They seem to be flying no higher than, say, 400 feet, which the FAA requires any unmanned aircraft with a standard authorization to fly no higher than 400 feet. That's the law. Those are the rules. And if you violate that, then you pretty much stand the risk of getting your license taken away. All drone operators commercially have to have an FAA Part 107. It's very simple to get. You can go on YouTube and type in FAA 107 study course, and you can go get your go pay $150 and get your drone license, and you can do this in less than a week, right? So again, they seem to be following the FAA regulations. Okay, so I'm going to take this aircraft here that I showed you earlier, and I'm going to put the battery in it. So you can see here that we have standard drone lights, right? Those are the nav lights. And if you're going to fly at night, you have to see those aircraft. You have to see those lights fly, or you have to see those lights from roughly 3 miles. So now we're going to go to the communication system. The communication system is very complex. I don't believe that they're flying from vessels offshore, because there's only a few things that you can do with your communications. With a standard radio link, which is C2 and video, command and control and video link, your antennas are only going to allow you to fly so far. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to try to do this here, but I'm going to draw a line here, and here you are. Okay, now this area here is where your drone is going to fly, and that's with a standard antenna that is kind of directional, moving this way. The other thing we have is a dipole antenna, and that's just a straight up antenna. It kind of just looks like this. You probably have seen them, but they send out a signal like this, and we're using about 1 watt of power. Okay, so with 1 watt of power, with a dipole antenna that sends out a signal of 360 degrees, with 1 watt of power, you may only get, maybe 1,000 yards or maybe 2,000 yards, so you're not going to get very far. But if you go with a directional antenna and you look at like a pie, like this is half of the pie, and your drone's flying out here, okay, you're taking that 1 watt of power and you're sending it out this way. You may be able to fly here, and that will give you maybe a mile, maybe more than a mile. Okay, so having the vessel or the drones flying miles off the coast is not feasible. The second thing is you have to look at your flight time. You have drones that have gas, like the multicopters, like the one I showed you. They have gas engines that push electric motors. They're called hybrid systems. Still they may only get really roughly 90 minutes of flight time. Okay, so now the other thing you can do with your antennas is here you are. You can go at a 45 degree. Okay, you're still pushing 1 watt of power. That means that you're not wasting all your power over here and over here, but you're pushing all of that power this way. So this could be a range of 10 miles that you could fly. Okay. So if you're flying out 10 miles, what's the difference between here and here? That could be 15 miles or 10 miles. We don't know. Right. So again, you're only at 10 to 15, maybe 20 miles tops. Okay. So the next thing that you can do is you can use a tracking system. So wherever the drone flies, the antenna will lock onto the drone, and you're pushing a small beam with 1 watt of power. Now you could go to 2 watts of power, but now you're starting to get into FCC regulations, right? You actually have to have authorization to fly an aircraft using radios with 2 watts of power. So if your drone is here and you fly out, you might be able to go 100 miles, but the tracking system has to track. So wherever the aircraft goes, right? Wherever the aircraft goes, that antenna is going to track that drone. And if you lose lock on that aircraft, then the aircraft has a safety feature that will allow it to come back. So it's a fail safe, right? Most drone people know this stuff. So again, there's a lot of things that are happening with these drones that prove that they are not nefarious in intent. Now, as far as gas is concerned and emitting gas or shooting at stuff, I've seen some of those videos, and that doesn't work for me, because if they're shooting any type of projectile, if they're launching any type of projectile off of an unmanned aircraft, that puts you right up there with Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein, right here in the United States. That's against the law, and you'll go to jail. Now, drones that are, putting off this gas, well, you have to have a special license to do that anyway, right? So it's highly unlikely that they're flying at that altitude and off-gassing this material, whatever it may be. But also, gas or chemicals, water, fuel, they weigh about 6 to 8 pounds a gallon. And so if you have any type of gas that the aircraft is putting off, then your flight time is significantly going to be reduced, because you don't have enough power to keep the aircraft in the air long enough to travel the distance that it takes to go from offshore to the inside of the United States, right? So again, then you have to take the wind in consideration. And these drones are flying at night for cover, but also it's less windy at night. So again, a lot of this stuff isn't making sense to me. I don't believe, again, that these drones have a nefarious intent. I believe they're looking for something, because that's the only thing they can do at night. You can't see shit when you're flying a drone at night using a standard camera. Again, you could do agricultural type stuff, but you would do that during the day. So, and typically, if you're going to do methane gas detection, you typically do that during the day, because you want to see what you're flying into. So, again, none of this stuff makes any sense to me. And, me taking the time to explain all of this to you is very important for me, because I believe that, we are absolutely never going to be told the truth. If you knew what was going on around the world, you would be shocked and you'd be angry. So I'm going to pause this and then start another video. So I'll see you on the.
Yeah, so I'm not so sure about this guy at this point. He kind of lost me when he said there's no nefarious intent here. Are you kidding me? I'm quite certain there is nefarious intent when you have these drones going over Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and it has to shut down. Is he serious? Honestly, I don't know if I can really go with what this guy is saying because of that. But hey, I don't know if y'all disagree. That's perfectly fine. Before we look at some other stuff that's going on with the drones, got a lot of new people just now coming in. I want to show y'all what you especially came for, and that is the statement from Trump. It is 1 minute long on the drones, but it does give us more information than we knew before. Let's briefly recap, take a look at it, and then we're going to take a look at some other stuff with the drones. So let me go ahead and press play here. Let's dive in.
Good to see you.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, I mean, they happen to be over Bedminster. Want to know the truth? They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
Have you been
Do you have any reason to think they're?
He says, I can't imagine that it's from some foreign entity. And I think that's interesting language, because it does seem to suggest that he's not fully aware of what's going on himself. It appears he may not have been briefed yet, which is pretty weird, because he's about to become president again. He's about to be inaugurated again. I guess that's going to happen after he's sworn in. I would have hoped it already happened before, but I don't know. Maybe he's playing dumb. Maybe he knows more, and he's deliberately using that kind of language so that people don't know that he knows. I don't know. But you know what? That's better than what we got from Biden so far, because what we got from Biden so far is nothing. He hasn't said anything. Somebody is asking in the chat, what is Elon up to? I've been asking that question for about a week now. What's going on? Why hasn't Elon said anything about this? This is right up his alley. This is his wheelhouse. He should be the number one guy talking about this. I don't understand why he hasn't spoken about it. He did say something back in September about how drone warfare is going to be the future of warfare. But conspicuously, I haven't seen him say anything about the drones since then. If he said something, I missed it. Send it to me. I would love to see it. It's so weird, though, that he hasn't said anything. I don't know. That suggests to me he either, at the very least, knows what's going on and he can't comment on it for one reason or another, or he's part of it, right? I don't know which one it is. But a lot of people are starting to ask those same questions. All right, so let me also show you what Senator Schumer just said about the drones. I say drones because he's going to establish that really we don't know what they are. Watch this one.
Are flying drones.
Got it. Sir, as the author of the UAP amendment in the 2024 National Defense Authorization Act, you, among anybody, should be calling these what they are. We don't know they're drones, correct? They are UAPs. Why? Why aren't they being called UAPs?
Because we don't know if there are UAPs. We don't know what they are. That's what we're trying to find out.
Identified, of course.
Nobody knows what they are. We have to find out.
Senator,
yes.
Are these U.S. military drones?
We don't believe we do not believe they are U.S. military drones. The military would have told us that.
Why haven't precautions been taken sooner?
Why
now? Why haven't precautions?
Well, all of a sudden they're in the skies all over the place. And so we got to find answers. And then the legislation will provide much more authority as to where and when drones can fly. Right now, there is no authority to that because there are so many hobbyists and everybody else who flies drones. So you got to figure out how to do it.
Senator, have you spoken with top government leaders about the possibilities involved with non-human intelligence?
Look, we have spoken with top government leaders about finding the answers to what these are. We don't know what they are. No more, sir. Let other people. Okay.
When will you have a definitive answer of what these drones or where they're coming from?
The sooner the better. We've talked to the Homeland Security and the FBI and told them we need answers quickly.
All right, so somebody else is saying in the chat, it's Project Bluebeam. I did a video yesterday exploring that thesis as well as a few others. It's called, Is the Government Faking an Alien Invasion? Go and watch that if you want to know more about Project Bluebeam and if that is what is going on now. But what I found interesting about this is he is pretty confident it's not the military. And I want to say, why is that? Well, he tells us, because the military would have told us if. Seriously? No, I don't think that logically follows. I don't think that we can confidently say it's not the U.S. military because the U.S. military hasn't told us that it's the military by now. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm still a little skeptical on that particular point, so I wouldn't be very confident on that matter as he is. But I thought it was a little comical because he says, we don't know what they are. We don't know if they're, somebody said, are they UAPs? We don't know because we don't know what they are. That's what a UAP is by definition. Unidentified aerial phenomena, right? By definition, you're saying it's a UAP, but then he says, I don't know if it's UAP. We don't know if it's a UAP because we don't know what it is. By definition. Okay, whatever. So we got that from Senator Schumer. Thank you for nothing. Now let's take a look at this one where we got some interesting points being made here on News Nation about New Jersey low-level officials trying to find out what's going on and how it really falls to them to try to provide answers, and how absurd that is at this point. Watch this one.
What new information can you share this morning from state and federal law enforcement?
It's reached a point of almost insanity. You think about a United States senator who has to go out with the local police to look for drones. That's where a United States senator is getting information. We had a briefing from the state police, the colonel in the state police. He was frustrated. He had no idea where these drones are coming from. Not only did I call for a limited state of emergency and the FAA shutting down the airspace for drones, but also having the Department of Defense come in and answer questions. If the Department of Defense doesn't know where the origins are for these so-called drones, then we're in trouble. How can the Department of Defense not provide information to the public? This is a shock to me. You know, I have a general belief in government, but this is taking me to the end of my belief that government is really being honest. So my guess is there is information, but they're holding it back. And now what you have is panic. Originally some questions, now you have serious concerns. And at the next point, somebody's going to do something stupid. So the Department of Defense has to come clean with the American public.
Yeah, so that's actually what I've been noting myself for about a week now, is that because we're not being given answers, well, at least the answers we're given are so ridiculously unbelievable, and we're not being given truthful answers from the government. This is going to be an issue, and people's concerns are going to continue to increase until it reaches a fevered pitch, and the situation will be absolute pandemonium. That is one of my major concerns here. If the government does not come out and is not straightforward with the American people, we're going to have some serious issues. This isn't just going to be people are curious at night and they got their cell phones out. We're going to have some serious problems. So that's where I have some real concerns here. Now, let's take this to the question of perhaps, are these alien technology, or at least human technology inspired by alien technology, or is this perhaps part of a greater program of disclosure where the government is going to eventually tell people that, hey, we're not alone in the universe? I don't know. It is something to consider. It is a theory worth exploring, especially in light of the fact that we're seeing Lou Elizondo not long ago. What was this? Just a few weeks ago, right around the time that we started seeing these Jersey drones, he went before Congress and he said some pretty amazing things. And this is a former intelligence officer from the Pentagon saying some pretty wild stuff here. I think it's likely related to what's going on in Jersey, because again, right around the time that we have Lou and others before Congress basically saying the government is aware of aliens, the government has crash retrieval programs, reverse engineering alien technology, right at that time we start to get the drones. That cannot be a coincidence. I want to share this with you because you may not have seen it. A lot of people just kind of skimmed over it or skipped over it and didn't really see this. And I think it might be related potentially to what's going on right now. And a lot of people are just now tuning in. Hey, welcome to the show. Hit the like button and please hit that subscribe button if you appreciate the content that you're seeing from this channel. I would really appreciate your support. All right, let's watch just a few minutes of this where he's before Congress and he's making some pretty incredible statements here. Again, intelligence officer from the Pentagon. I mean, this is just wild stuff.
I will now recognize Mr. Elizondo for his opening statement.
Greetings, Chairwoman Mace, Chairman Grothman, Ranking Members Connolly and Garcia, and members of the committee. It is my honor and privilege to testify before you on the issue of unidentified anomalous phenomenon, formerly known as UFOs. On behalf of our brave men and women in uniform and across the intelligence community, as well as my fellow Americans who have awaited this day, thank you for your leadership on this important matter. Let me be clear. UAP are real. Advanced technologies not made by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe. Furthermore, the U.S. is in possession of UAP technologies, as are some of our adversaries. I believe we are in the midst of a multi-decade secretive arms race, one funded by misallocated taxpayer dollars and hidden from our elected representatives and oversight bodies. For many years, I was entrusted with protecting some of our nation's most sensitive programs. In my last position, I managed a special access program on behalf of the White House and the National Security Council. As such, I appreciate the need to protect certain sensitive intelligence and military information. I consider my oath to protect secrets as sacred, and I will always put the safety of the American people first. With that said, I also understand the consequences of excessive secrecy and stovepiping. Nowhere was this more apparent than in the aftermath of 9/11, which many of us remember all too well. I believe that America's greatness depends on three elements. A watchful Congress, B, a responsive executive branch, and C, an informed public. Over the last decade and a half, I learned that certain UAP programs were and are operating without any of these elements. Although much of my government work on the UAP subject still remains classified, excessive secrecy has led to grave misdeeds against loyal civil servants, military personnel, and the public, all to hide the fact that we are not alone in the cosmos. A small cadre within our own government involved in the UAP topic has created a culture of suppression and intimidation that I've personally been victim to, along with many of my former colleagues. This includes unwarranted criminal investigations, harassment, and efforts to destroy one's credibility. Most Americans would be shocked to learn that the Pentagon's very own Public Affairs Office openly employs a professional psychological operations officer as the singular point of contact for any UAP-related inquiries from citizens and the media. This is unacceptable. Many of my former colleagues and I have provided classified testimony to both the Department of Defense and the Intelligence Community Inspector General, and many of us have subsequently been targeted by this cabal with threats to our careers, our security clearances, and even our lives. This is not hyperbole, but a genuine fact, and this is wrong. To fix these problems, I propose three principal actions. First, Congress and the President should create a single point of contact responsible for a whole-of-government approach to the UAP issue. Currently, the White House, CIA, NASA, the Pentagon, Department of Energy, and others play a role, but no one seems to be in charge, leading to unchecked power and corruption. Second, we need a national UAP strategy that will promote transparency and help restore the American public's trust at a time when the public's trust is at an all-time low. This strategy should include a whole-of-government approach, including the academic and scientific communities, the private sector, and our international partners and allies. Third, Congress should create a protected environment so whistleblowers desperate to do the right thing can come forward without fear. As it currently stands, these whistleblowers suffer because of stigma, a code of silence, and concerns about retaliation. These whistleblowers should be encouraged to come forward in ways that protect them against any forms of retaliation. Policies and procedures should ensure that protection, and for those who refuse to cooperate, it is up to the members of this committee and the other lawmakers to wield their subpoena power against hostile witnesses and prevent additional government funding to those UAP efforts that remain hidden from congressional oversight. In closing, we as Americans have never been afraid of a challenge. In fact, we thrive on them, whether it's eradicating polio or going to the moon. We don't run from a challenge, we take it head on. To the incoming administration and Congress, I say to you, we need immediate public transparency. And this hearing is an important step on that journey. If we approach the UAP topic in the same way as we as Americans have met other challenges, we can restore our faith in our government institutions. Together, we can usher in a new era of accountable government and scientific discovery. I believe that we as Americans can handle the truth, and I also believe the world deserves the truth. Thank you, esteemed members of Congress, for your time today. It is profoundly appreciated by many.
Well, I mean, and there's more. There's a lot more to that hearing, and we're going to see just a few clips here in a moment. Some pretty amazing stuff. But yeah, I mean, really well placed intelligence officer Luis Elizondo comes out and basically says, yeah, this is part of disclosure, and he thinks that the American people need to be told the truth. We're ready. There's no point in hiding this anymore. Is this related to what's going on with the Jersey drones? I don't know. It's interesting that we started to see the drones right around the time or right after that congressional hearing. Seems like there might be some kind of relation in one way or another, either as a distraction from that congressional hearing or as tied into it. Don't know. There's a lot of questions that still remain here. And I see a lot of people in the chat. Some are saying this is the Anunnaki that ties into the Nephilim theory coming from Genesis chapter 6. Well, look, I'm a theologian by trade. I've read the Bible over 10 times cover to cover. I'm a professor of theology. This is my wheelhouse. And I'll certainly do some videos soon on the question of the Nephilim thesis. So stay tuned for that. I also saw somebody mentioning the rapture in the chat. Just FYI on the point of the rapture. Nowhere in scripture in the Bible does it teach a concept of a rapture. There are a few passages that have been taken out of context to say that this is in reference to a rapture, but if you look contextually, there is no such thing, which is why that doctrine really came about as late as the 19th century. It's a pretty recent innovation, and so no, I don't think any of this has anything to do with a rapture, but much more on that. Perhaps we'll do a whole separate stream on the question of the rapture and if that ties into what's going on today. All right, so let's actually see a little bit more from that hearing where he's being cross-examined. Watch this part. This is absolutely wild.
When it comes to Blue Force Technologies, I would not be able to discuss.
Okay. Are you read into secret UAP crash retrieval programs?
We would have to have a conversation in a closed session, ma'am. I signed documentation 3 years ago that restricts my ability to discuss specifically crash retrievals. I submitted for my book through the DOPSR process, which took a year for it to be reviewed. And what is in the book is what I was told I'm allowed to talk about.
Has the government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Were they designed to identify and reverse engineer alien craft? Yes or no?
Yes.
Does the U.S. government have any reverse? Okay, we already answered that question about retrieval programs. Do any U.S. contractors have the same?
I would prefer to address that in a closed session, ma'am.
Okay. In your book, you mentioned government employees who've been injured by UAPs, placed on leave, and receiving government compensation for their injuries. Is that correct?
That is correct.
How can the government deny we have recovered craft if they're paying people because they've been injured by recovered craft?
Ma'am, that's a great question. That's why I think we're here again, because I've seen the documentation by the U.S. government for several of these individuals who have sustained injuries as a result of a UAP incident.
It's a crazy idea, right? The hypocrisy and the logic. Okay.
Wow. So this is wild stuff. And a lot of people slept on this and didn't say a word about it when it happened just a few weeks ago. This is incredible stuff. And so maybe we'll do a whole nother stream where we go through that entire hearing. I think that would be productive. This is fascinating. I think it might provide some answers, some solutions to what's going on. Potentially. I don't know for sure, which is interesting because we have a person in the comment section saying, Michael, you're smart, but you're making good money over this. You don't want to find out. Not good business for you, but the answer is right in front of you. I do want to know the truth. But I'm very, very analytical, and I think critically, and I don't just immediately assume something. I need evidence. And so that's why I haven't come to any particular conclusion just yet. But that actually doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Wouldn't I make a ton of money if I did have the answer? I would think so. If I had the answer right now to what's going on with the Jersey drones, I think I would make a lot of money because I would disseminate that information right here on this channel. So yeah, I don't think that was a very coherent comment, but I appreciate the comment. Everybody hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're just now tuning in, I would greatly appreciate your support. I want to actually look at something else that was brought to my attention from a few years ago. It may tie into this, may not. It might be junk. It might be gold. I don't know because, again, I don't have the answer. And I don't know if a whole lot of people right now do have definitive answers as to what's going on. I think that there are some people who know for sure, obviously. But most people, we're all just trying to figure out what's going on. Might this be something that leads us to the truth? I don't know. This was shared with me. This was posted a few years ago from 2020. Former Israeli space security chief says extraterrestrials exist and Trump knows about it. That would be pretty incredible if true. But what's wild is this actually comes from an Israeli space security chief who is incredibly reputable. And so it's wild that he comes out and says it. And believe me, the claims get even weirder if you keep going through this article. A former Israeli space security chief has sent eyebrows shooting heavenward by saying that Earthlings have been in contact with extraterrestrials from a galactic federation. The unidentified flying objects have asked not to publish that they are here. Humanity is not ready yet. Haim Eshed, former head of Israel's Defense Ministry's Space Directorate, told Israeli Yodiat Aharonot newspaper the interview in Hebrew ran on Friday and gained traction after parts were published in English by the Jerusalem Post on Tuesday. A respected professor, retired general, Eshad said the aliens were equally curious about humanity and were seeking to understand the fabric of the universe. Eshad said cooperation agreements had been signed between species, including an underground base in the depths of Mars. I mean, that's pretty wild. Maybe that's why Elon Musk has been silent lately, right? With all his interest in Mars, and he's not saying anything about the drones. I don't know, just throwing it out there, just asking questions. Where there are allegedly American astronauts and alien representatives. He says this is an agreement between the U.S. government and the aliens. They signed a contract with us to do experiments here, he said. Eshad added that President Donald Trump was aware of the extraterrestrials' existence and had been on the verge of revealing information, but was asked not to in order to prevent mass hysteria. I'll put a link to the full article where you can go read it in the show notes, but that's effectively the gist of it. And so, in other words, Trump wanted to go ahead and blow the lid off of this thing, but in order to prevent mass hysteria, he hasn't said anything. Is this true? I don't know. He's 80 years at this point. Some people are saying, well, maybe he just kind of mentally lost it. Or is he just basically, he's 80 years old, he has nothing to lose at this point, and so he just says, look, here's the deal. I don't know, but throwing it out there as maybe a piece that fits in the puzzle here, potentially for the theory that what's going on right now in the drones is just a small part of a fuller program of disclosure where somehow we're going to become aware that aliens exist. We're not alone in the universe. It's a potential theory. I mean, it's possible. It's also possible that that's not true, right? It could be that they're sniffing for nukes, as we've seen others say. It could be Project Bluebeam. It could be none of the above. It could be just regular people somehow have these drones and they're flying them around. It could be people overreacting. It could be misinformation, some kind of psyop for some unknown reason from the government. I mean, there's a lot of theories. I covered about a dozen of them yesterday in yesterday's stream. But I don't know. That one might be, again, another piece to the puzzle when it comes to the disclosure theory, but we don't know for sure. But I think that people at this point really are seeking for answers. And I really do believe a lot of people are ready for those answers. So I hope that the government does the right thing and tells us what exactly is going on. I think people are ready for it. One last time, I'm going to play the video of Trump for those of y'all who just now came in the show and did not see Trump's statement on the drones. Let's play it one more time. Let's see. You should be able to see it right around now.
To see you.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, I mean, they happen to be over Bedminster. Want to know the truth. They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
Have you been
Do you have any reason to think they're?
All right. So it seems to suggest some of the language that he used here that he's not himself entirely certain what's going on. But that, again, could be he could be deliberately misleading people and doing that so that he doesn't really let on as to how much he knows. But he's very confident that Biden knows, the military knows, and they need to go ahead and say something. And I agree. I think we deserve answers. If we are required to pay taxes, I think the government is required to provide answers in situations like this. I understand that not everything can be provided to the public. There are national security interests and stuff like that. But look, at this point, this is such a openly visible catastrophe that's taking place in front of us, where it really looks like there's a massive problem with our government. I think at this point we are entitled to those answers. So I want to get y'all's feedback, though. So whatever you think this is, point me in the right direction. Tell me what you think is going on with these drones. Do you think this is disclosure? Do you think it's something else? Put it in the comment section. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the like button. I would greatly appreciate your support. A lot more good stuff coming your way, so stay tuned for more. We'll see you later. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the content. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the like button, and if you want to support the channel, visit patreon.com/Reason and Theology. Are you seeking clarity in the midst of confusion about Eastern Orthodoxy and Catholicism? In my book, Answering Orthodoxy, I offer a biblical and historical response to the most common objections that Eastern Orthodox offer against the Catholic Church. This book is for anyone searching for the truth, whether you're Catholic, Orthodox, or simply trying to make sense of the differences between Catholics and Orthodox. Order your copy today and discover the rational, biblical, and historical basis for the Catholic Church. Visit Amazon to order your copy today.